Okay, solving rational equations with binomials and trinomials in the denominator. So I want to talk about what we call the restrictions on x. In the previous, we had restrictions on x which were 0 because we had monomials in the denominator. This time, though, we're going to have binomials in the denominator. When we've got binomials in the denominator, we've got restrictions on x, and the restrictions have to do with the fact that what's in the denominator cannot be 0. This number cannot be 0. So we have to figure out what the x would be that would give me 0, and that's my restriction. The easiest way to do this is to actually do this. Take what's in the denominator, put the not equal to sign, and put 0, and then solve for x. Move the 6 over just like normal, and we will get 6. That tells me my restriction on x is 6. I cannot have 6 as one of my answers to my equation. So again, take what's in the denominator, put the not equal to symbol and the 0, and solve for x. Subtract 1 from both sides, we'll get this to be -1. So my restriction is x to be -1. Now over here, I'm going to have 2 restrictions because there's 2 binomials. Now, if you didn't notice on the first 2, the restriction is just whatever the opposite sign is of what's in that parentheses. So the restriction for this one would be +4, and the restriction for this one would be -7. So you have to specify that up front, what x cannot be. Now, if it's a monomial, it's always 0. If it's a binomial, it's going to be any other number besides 0. Now, I'm going to do 5 or 6. I think I'm going to do 5 problems where we're solving for x. On all of these problems, on all of these problems, you're going to have, let me rewrite this. I don't like that. You're going to have to find the common denominator. Just like when we were adding and subtracting. And just like when we were doing the complex fractions. Now, I'm going to put my parentheses next to everything. And we're going to locate the common denominator. Now, remember the common denominator is any binomial that's in the denominators must be part of the common denominator. Here is an x minus 6. That means in my parentheses, I'm going to have an x minus 6. In this one, there's an x plus 5. So in my parentheses, I'm going to have an x plus 5. Now, what's going to happen, I'm going to draw lines through it. This x minus 6 takes out this x minus 6 in the parentheses. What you're left with is the 3 and the x plus 5. On this side, the x plus 5 takes out the x plus 5 in the parentheses, and you're left with a 7 and an x minus 6. Now, I forgot to do this up front. My restrictions, x cannot be +6 and -5. Now, let's go solve this. We do the distributive property. 7x minus 42. Solve for x. We're going to subtract 15 from both sides. We're going to add 7x to both sides. So we're going to get 10x on this side and 57 on this side, negative 57. Divide both sides by 10. So x turns out to be negative 57 over 10. That's my final answer. Alright, let's look at this one. I don't know why they're so small. Let's do 2 over x plus 3 equals. Now, if your binomial can be factored, you've got to factor it, especially if it's got an x squared in it. Alright, so let's go factor this binomial on the right. It's a difference of 2 squares, so we can factor it out. Now let's figure out the restrictions. According to this one, x can't be negative 3. Over here, this one, x can't be positive 3. So that's my restrictions. I'm going to put my parentheses next to everything, and we're going to figure out the common denominator. Okay, for sure, I'm going to have an x plus 3. From the second denominator, I need an x minus 3. Now notice I already have the x plus 3 in the parentheses. I don't need it again. So we've got the common denominator. Now comes the crossing out part. This is going to take out the x plus 3 in the parentheses. What we're left with is the 2 and the x minus 3. Here, notice both of these cancel out. So we're just left with a minus 6. So that's good. We only have to worry about the left side. Do the distributive property. Add 6 to both sides. Now pay attention. What you're going to get is 2x equals 0, which means x is equal to 0. This is the answer. Perfectly okay to have zeros. Alright, let me rewrite this one. We got 10 plus 1 over 3x minus 2 equals. Now this one's got 3 terms, but it only has 1 denominator. So I'm going to put a parentheses next to everything. But also have to find out what my restriction is. So this one we're going to have to actually solve it. But let me finish writing it out. So what I want you to do over here is take the denominator, put a not equal to symbol, and put 0. And we're going to solve for x like we would normally. Move the 2 over, becomes positive. Divide by 3, and we'll get, my restriction is 2/3. Now the common denominator this time is just 3x minus 2. That's all it has. So we're going to put 3x minus 2 in the parentheses. And again, this first piece is just straight multiplication. 30x minus 20 plus 3x minus 2 crosses out, left with a 1. 3x minus 2's cross out, and we're left with a minus 3. Combining like terms, we'll get negative 19 equals negative 3. Add 19 to both sides. 30x equals 16. Divide by 30. get this, and then we simplify it. We can divide both of those by 2, 8 over 15. Alright, let's do this one. I'm going to put parentheses next to everything. Go ahead and do that while I'm here. It wasn't this small when I wrote it. I don't know what's going on, but whatever. Now, let's pick out the restrictions before I do anything. Notice, this is an X. Whoops. Since that's an X, that means one of my restrictions is not equal to 0 because it's a monomial. Here, it's X plus 6, so my other restriction is negative 6. Now, I'm going to highlight all the different everything in the denominators, and everything that's different is going to go in the parentheses. So we got to have an X and an X plus 6. X and an X plus 6. X and an X plus 6. Now comes the crossing things out. Alright, we'll do this in green. This X takes out this single X, and we're left with an X plus 6. We got a minus sign. This 6X, X plus 6 takes out that X plus 6, and we're left with a 3X. This X plus 6 takes out this X plus 6, and we're left with a 9X. Now, we're going to combine like terms. On the left, we can combine the 3 and the X. We get negative 2X equals 9X. We're going to add 2X to both sides. So we get 6 equals 11X. Divide by 11. So X turns out to be 6 over 11. Not 11 over 6, 6 over 11. Alright. I want to do one more example. And this one we're going to have to factor first. How do I know we've got to factor it? Because it's got an X squared in it. Alright. So before I do anything, let's go factor this trinomial. And here's the good news. It's going to factor into these two binomials. It's designed to do that. So whatever the two binomials are, that's going to be what that factors into. Now, before we do anything else, let's figure out our restrictions on X. According to this one, X can't be negative 5. According to this one, X can't be positive 3. So that's my restriction. Okay, so I'm going to draw my parentheses next to everything, just like all the others. Okay, now common denominator is going to be a combination of the different binomials. That's one of my denominators. That's one of the binomials that goes in the parentheses. This binomial will also go in the parentheses. Remember, you've got that whatever binomial is in the bottom, that has to go in your parentheses for your LCD, sorry. Now we can start crossing things out. We can cancel out this X plus 5 in the bottom with the X plus 5 in the parentheses. We're left with a 6 times an x minus 3. Got a minus sign. This x minus 3 cancels out with the x minus 3 in the parentheses. Then we've got a 2 in front of an x plus 5. On this side, it's designed to cancel everything out, so you're only left with the 7. Now we're just going to do the distributive property, add like terms, and solve for x. We're going to get 6x minus 18 minus 2x minus 10 equals 7. On the left side, I can combine like terms. We'll get 4x minus 28 equals 7. I'm going to add 28 to both sides. We're going to get 4x on the left, 35 on the right. Then we divide by 4. So x turns out to be 35 fourths. That's all I can do. That's my answer.